Hello viewers, I am Lakshmi Padmanabhan. Welcome to Gandhi Hacks in South Africa. The franchise bill changed the direction of Mohandas Gandhi's life. Now that he was not to leave Natal, he thought of taking a proper house there, a good house in a good locality. This kind of attitude, that is living in a grand house, a stately house, was prompted partly by his desire to raise the profile of the Indian in South Africa. Still, we find it a bit strange that Gandhi gave so much importance to these social vanities. What we should remember is that he was young at that time, and the young Gandhi was in many ways very different from the older Gandhi. And one thing that we should notice about Mahatma Gandhi is that he was always a work in progress. And many of the attitudes, assumptions and perspectives he had earlier in life, he changed. He constantly revised his opinions about life, and the final evolution is what we find in the personality of Mahatma Gandhi. So in order to accomplish this, that is getting a new house in a proper locality, required huge sums of money. And Gandhi appealed to his rich clients that the fee for the entire year be given to him as advance. They were happy to do that. 20 merchants at once decided to give him the money required to establish a proper home and for the locality. See, by this time, Harry Escombe, who was the Attorney General of Natal, had become a close friend of Gandhi. So Escombe invited him to be his neighbor in a very posh area in Natal. Beach Grove Villa was the place where he stayed. It was a grand house, and Dada Abdullah also liked it, and he was only happy to furnish it in the proper way. It was a huge, sprawling, two-storied house with a long veranda and a beautiful garden and a very inviting ambience. Gandhi's office also was quite nearby, within walking distance of his house. In order to carry out his legal work, he had to become an advocate of the Supreme Court of Natal. So that was the next thing that he directed his attention to. He applied for permission to practice in the court. The Law Society of Natal raised objections. No, they did not want a colored man to be their colleague, but they could not raise any official objection. So they resorted to a kind of technical objection. And that was that Gandhi had not attached an English certificate from the British court. But the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, glory be to him, waved it all aside. He said the Supreme Court of Natal has no objection to Mr. Gandhi practicing as an advocate here. There is no law against a colored person working as an advocate in this court. So Mr. Gandhi, you can take your oath of office. So Gandhi stood up and took his oath of office. Then the Chief Justice told Gandhi, "Now Mr. Gandhi, please remove your turban. Now you are subject to the rules of this court regarding the dress code of barristers." Remember this turban incident earlier? Now, without a moment's thought, Mohandas Gandhi removed his turban. Much to the annoyance of Dada Abdullah and the others, they felt that it was a kind of surrender on the part of Gandhi. But Gandhi said, "I need to reserve my energies for bigger battles." Now, this is a small affair, he knew. It was trivial to object to this rule. Granting the permission to practice in the Supreme Court was a great thing. Compared to that, this very small thing of removing the turban was nothing at all. So Gandhi, even at that young age, when he was around 25 or so, knew the distinction, fine distinction between flexibility and firmness. When you need to be firm and when you need to be flexible, a leader needs to know, and that leadership quality Mohandas Gandhi had. The struggle against the franchise bill paved the way for the formation of the Natal Indian Congress. Whatever happened in South Africa had its echo in England and in India. In India, by that time, the Indian National Congress was already an established force. In 1885, it was established and it had become a headache for the British. Now, a new headache would be added to that. That would be the fear of the British. Gandhi knew that the Conservative Party hated the word Congress, but he wanted to make it popular among the people in South Africa. So Natal Indian Congress was the name given to it. And the objectives of the Natal Indian Congress were the following. First, to address the problems of the Indians in South Africa. Secondly, to popularize Indian literature. Thirdly, to make the Indians in India and the Indians in South Africa aware of the situation of the South Africans. To help the new generation Indians, that is the English educated Indians, aware of these problems, make them also part of the struggle, and to establish harmonious relationships between the Indians and the white people in Natal. The Natal Indian Congress worked very efficiently, and it was able to win a lot of friends for the South African Indian. It could get the support of all the political parties in India. The working of it was really very, very laudable, and they were happy. But one class of people could not be part of it, could not enjoy the benefits of the Natal Indian Congress, and they were the indentured laborers. Now, that was because becoming a member of the Natal Indian Congress needed the membership. Membership meant the membership fee, which they could not afford. And so they were not thought of very seriously. But an event occurred which forced Gandhi to think along, including them also in the ambit of the NIC's concerns. And that happened like this. It was the early days of the NIC, and it was the early days of Gandhi settling down in Natal. One day, a Tamil guy appeared in front of Gandhi in a very miserable condition. His front teeth were missing, his mouth was bleeding, and he was holding out a turban in his hand, waving it, and he was heartbroken. Now, on inquiry, Gandhi found that it was all caused by his employer. His white employer had beaten him black and blue and reduced him to this condition. And he had come running to Gandhi because now everybody thought of Gandhi as the solution to their problems. Now, at once Gandhi sent this man to the doctor. That also was done like a lawyer. Of course, the first thing was to see that his wounds were addressed, his injuries were addressed, but he wanted a report from the doctor, a certificate from the doctor, which would point to the cause of the injury that was necessary for the case. Now, Gandhi took this man, his name was Balasundaram, took him to the magistrate, produced the doctor's certificate, and the magistrate called for that employer who had reduced Balasundaram to this condition. The European employer came. Gandhi did not think in terms of crime and punishment. This man, this European, had committed a crime, but he need not be punished. He should only be made aware of the evil that he had done. And so Gandhi said, you should release this indentured laborer from your terms of contract. Now, the terms of contract of indenture meant that the laborer was not free to run away from his employer. If he does that, then he can be punished for criminal offense. He can be put in prison. And so Gandhi did not want that to happen to Bala. So he told this European employer to set his worker free. Now the European readily agreed to do it because he knew that he was dealing with a lawyer. And he was also happy that he was not given any punishment. So that was done. Now the next was to get Bala a job there. That also was a little difficult because only Europeans could employ indentured laborers, and Gandhi had to find a European who was a good man also, a good employer. Somehow he managed to do that, and Bala was happily resettled in another job. Thus the burning problem of a very lowly man in Natal was addressed successfully by Gandhi, and the news of this spread like wildfire. Indentured laborers began to flock to his house with many of their complaints or sufferings, and they felt immeasurable joy and hope at knowing that there was someone in Natal who was prepared to listen to them, who was prepared to work for them, understand them. This incident was followed by a government move which provoked Mohandas Gandhi to go deeper into the problems of the indentured laborers. Now that was in 1894, the government considered imposing a tax of 25 pounds on every indentured laborer. Now it was a very huge sum and it had to be nipped in the bud. Such legislation was prompted by a sort of jealousy that the Europeans felt towards the Indians. So the Indians, whether they were indentured laborers or clerks or merchants, they were flourishing in South Africa. See, they knew how to cultivate the soil, they knew how to make a good income out of crops, they introduced new crops, they brought seeds from India, and their enterprise was something that was far beyond the imagination of the Europeans. And their hard work, their simplicity. See, they could manage in very small, even unclean spaces, whereas the Europeans could live only in large houses with a lot of amenities and so on. So all this caused resentment among the Europeans, that they felt that they were being cheated of the great prosperity that was actually theirs by a matter of right. This was what they felt. It was reflected in these laws. So the NIC protested against this. The Viceroy of India intervened and he reduced the tax from 20 pounds to 3 pounds per year. But even 3 pounds was a very huge sum, something that the indentured laborers could not afford to pay. But though in spite of the NIC's protest, it continued for another 20 years. Only then it was scrapped. At a personal level, the young Gandhi felt that these activities in the service of his people gave him a sense of immense fulfillment. Self-actualization is the highest in the hierarchy of needs, according to Abraham Maslow. So Gandhi realized that service was his religion, his path to God. In Natal, he realized he had to continue for some more time and he could not return to India in the immediate future. So he thought of bringing Kasturba, Harilal and Manilal to South Africa. He took a 6 months leave from his activities in South Africa and returned to India. Let us join him in this trip on this voyage to India in the next episode. Thank you.